Well, hello, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back. I hope you guys are doing wonderful. I've got an interesting video for you today. In this video, we're going to talk about Alone. We're going to talk about Season 8, Episode 1. Wow. If you haven't seen the show, I recommend that you turn this video off. It will contain spoilers. I'm going to talk about the show. A lot happened. Great show. Very cool location. So the first episode aired on June 3rd, 2021. Let me go ahead and get started. The quote comes on the screen and it says, "The worst cruelty that can be inflicted on a human being is isolation." And that was a quote by Sukarno. I'm not quite sure who that is. So the first thing that the show shows is Chilco Lake in British Columbia, and it is absolutely beautiful. The water is like so pretty. It's just this deep blue color. It's just beautiful country that they're in. So we're starting off, there's an annotation on the screen that says that the elevation that they're at is 3,885 feet. I mean, it's just, I can't stress it enough how pretty this location is. So we're starting off on day one with Tim. He sees a grouse and he's talking about wanting to do 110 days. He wants to do more than anybody has ever done in the history of the show Alone. And he sees some bear tracks. So he decides that his priorities are going to be shelter, hunting, and fishing. So very interesting. So we're moving forward. There's 10 people left. It's day one, 11 o'clock, approximately 11:39. We're talking about Clay. And he sees a game trail right off the bat. I mean, again, I can't stress it enough. Beautiful location. And it's cool seeing the different cast members because they're showing their location where they're at. So the whole area is beautiful, but each piece of the pie, so to speak, is just stunning, beautiful. And Clay looks like he has a good spot. And then he finds some mushrooms. I guess they're called bolt mushrooms, B-O-L-E-T-E or something. I'm not familiar with that type of mushroom. And then there's an annotation that comes on the screen and it says, "Excellent source for manganese, zinc, copper, iodine, and molybdenum," whatever that is. So very cool. Clay's collecting these mushrooms and he's going to eat good tonight. He's got mushrooms. And he knows that his body weight is going to drop while he's on the show. He's very aware of that. He also knows that he's going to miss his family. So he's very aware of that. And he's doing this for his family. And I think most of the people on the show say that they're out there because they're doing this for either the money or their families. So very cool. And he can't find a hunting location yet. Then another annotation comes on the screen and it says densely forested area that they're in. There's a lot of spruce, pine, and fir trees. And then this next part just blows me away. He sees a grouse. Okay. He loads his bow. Remember, Clay is the one that I predicted to possibly win it all. And on day one, he sees a grouse and he loads his bow and he takes his time and he lets an arrow go. Did he get a grouse? Yes, he did. He got a grouse on the first shot. I was like, holy smokes. Blows me away. And he said something very smart. He said, "I'm planning to have a separate area or a separate camp to do all of my cooking away from my sleeping area. And that's something that I've been thinking about if I ever got selected for the show myself. I thought about that because you don't see people doing that. I wanted to let the predators go to a different area away from where I'm going to be sleeping. So it's very smart to hear Clay say that. I took notice of that and I thought, wow, this dude is very smart. I noticed that he had a Dutch oven, and the next thing you know, he sees a movement off in the distance and he turns very slow. Typical bow hunter, right? And it's a beautiful mountain lion, and he got some stunning footage of this mountain lion. I mean, just beautiful. So then we move forward to about 1 o'clock. Back to Clay still. There's still 10 people, obviously. And there's an annotation that comes on the screen, and it says, mountain lions can sprint up to 50 miles an hour. That's crazy. So not only is there wolves, bears, wolverines, there's moose, we're seeing mountain lions. It's just crazy. Grizzly bear country, crazy. So he decides that he's going to go get his bow in an effort to hunt the mountain lion. We're still on day 1, and this dude's already killing it, right? So he goes back to his shelter to get the bow, and while he's heading back to where he was, he left the camera on the tripod filming the mountain lion. And you can hear like him kind of scurrying off and then kind of scurrying back, and then the mountain lion takes off, and then you see Clay like pursuing this thing, like trying to tree it. I mean, the guy has no fear of the animal, which I think is fantastic, because that is one of the mental toughness characteristics that a person needs, in my opinion, to be out there on the show. You have to respect these animals, but you can't fear them. You can't let them disarm you from what you're out there to accomplish. And I saw a glimpse of that in Clay, and it just blew me away. And then he says, I was trying to tree it, and I made a mistake. He said, the second that I saw the mountain lion, I should have approached it, and it may have scurried up the tree. Then I would have had it treed. Then I could have got my bow and maybe had a kill. So very smart that he addressed his situation, the success or fail that it was, and he owned it. He took ownership of it. So we're moving forward. Day 1, 1:53 in the afternoon, 10 people left. We're talking about Matt. Matt is the fella that came from the Virgin Islands. And the first thing that I noticed was he's talking about drop shock. And then the annotation comes on the screen, and it says drop shock is a term coined by former participants describing their disoriented state upon arrival. And I can be honest with you, us at home that have never experienced that, we have no concept of what that's like. And I'll be honest with you on another thing here. I think that I would get a little nervous right off the bat too. I think that would affect me initially right off the bat. I think I'd bounce back from it, but again, drop shock is what they're calling that. And then so he sees a bull moose swimming in the lake. And he's thinking, man, this is crazy. And I noticed that the water bottle, remember, he's the fellow that took the water bottle. And I said in my video when I was talking about the cast, I was curious what kind of water bottle. And I thought it'd be smart if he took a stainless steel water bottle. Well, he did. It was a stainless steel water bottle. It looked like, from what I could see, it looked like it was around 64 ounces. So very cool choice of piece of gear for him to choose, because now I know that he's going to be able to boil water. I know that he's going to have a heater when it gets cold at night. So very smart on his part. He has a beautiful family. It kind of shows his family and stuff. And he's trying to crank out a bow drill. Remember, he didn't take a ferrocerium rod, so I was kind of wondering how that was going to work. And he's out there busting out a bow drill set, and I noticed that he got an ember, but I also noticed that it was on his second hole. So that means that it took some effort for it to be accomplished. These are just things that I noted. And I noticed the footage of him doing the bow drill. His technique was fantastic. So you can clearly see that he is very, very well adept at friction fire. So I give him compliments on his technique. It looked fantastic. And then, so he said that he had been practicing friction fire for over 20 years. And then he goes on a kind of a recon to kind of look at his area and see what kind of resources he has. And he says, this is the first time that I will be in grizzly bear country for a long term. So he's a little bit aware of that and cautious about that. So we're moving forward, still day one, or I think we're on day two actually. No, we're still on day one. It's 9:47 at night. And we're talking about Clay. 10 people left, and he's in his shelter, and it's raining. I mean, it's coming down, and it's lightning, and the weather, and it's windy. And he says, I can't believe that I'm here. What have I gotten myself into? And I think, again, like Matt talked earlier, it's kind of that drop shock, I think. And I think Clay's experiencing that. And I think that's a common thing. I'm not discounting Clay or anything. I think that that's just one of the things that people go through. So we're moving forward. We're on day two, and there's 10 people left. We're going to talk about Biko for a second. So he has this tarp coming down, and it's kind of got a water collection area, and he's drinking water from the tarp. Bent down, drinking rain collection water, which is smart. And I just thought that it would have been interesting to see him put that in a container and drink it out of the container. Because he had mentioned that he was drinking like bugs and stuff. The guy's a good character. I like his character for the show. He's a very good fit. It's good to see somebody like him on the show. So he's already given us great television. And he decides that he's going to start to build a cabin, and it kind of shows his home life too. And his girlfriend is pregnant, and they are expecting twins. And he finds a piece of a couple nails that are rusty nails, and he finds a good piece of steel, like a big nail or something, and he decides that he's going to forge a knife. And he mentions that he'll probably be the first person in the history of Alone to forge a knife while out there. And that's true. I don't recall anybody in the last 7, this is season 8, I cannot remember a single participant ever forging a knife out there. So I think that's cool that he's doing that. So let's move forward. We're on day 3. We got 10 people left. We're talking about Tim. He says he didn't sleep well. He decides that he's going to build a lean-to type cabin, and his cabin lean-to shelter looks fantastic. He did a fantastic job. But the thing that I noticed is he put a lot of effort into it, a lot of energy. It was a huge physical task. And I think it should have been done a little bit slower, like kind of more of a marathon than a sprint. My opinion. I'm just saying, I'm not knocking Tim at all. I'm just saying I think it would have been, he could have saved a little calories. But it looks beautiful. And now we're moving forward. It's day 4, 8 o'clock in the morning, 10 people left. We're talking about Rose here. She wants to move her shelter. She says that her tarp, is too close to the beach, and she wants to explore a little bit, so find areas where she can hunt and fish. And she decides that she's going to build an A-frame shelter. So very cool. Now we're moving forward. We're still on day 4, 11:36 in the afternoon, or in the morning rather. 10 people left. Back to Matt, and he's naming all of the cameras. Like the GoPro is named this, the main camera is named that, and it gave me a moment of reminiscent of Castaway. Castaway, and in that movie. And I know it's silly to think this way, but Matt's doing a good thing by naming these cameras, because in Castaway, even though it's just a movie where Tom Hanks had the soccer ball and he called it Wilson and all that, that gave him a mental edge, I guess you could say, that kept him going. And I'm kind of wondering if there's correlation between Castaway, you know, him naming that ball Wilson, and Matt naming all these cameras. I think when he names these cameras, he's probably not gonna feel alone. And I think that's a very smart idea. I think it's a very brilliant tactic, something I would have never thought of to do. I think that's just amazing. And he decides that he's going to build a shelter, a better shelter, and he sees a grizzly. And he has a bear experience. He has an encounter with a mama bear and a couple cubs, and he gets close. It's kind of scary there for a second. And my personal thoughts was that I thought, you know, because he's very quiet, and I think being out there, he should have been a little bit louder and, you know, making more noise and stuff, my personal opinion, because that way you're not going to startle yourself into a potential attack. If you are very quiet and you accidentally sneak up on a bear, they might be especially a mama bear, might get startled and you might be lunch. She's protecting her babies, right? That was just a thought that crossed my mind. I'm not discounting him or anybody on the show for that matter. I'm just giving my personal thoughts. Again, they're the people out there, and another thing to think about is we are only seeing a glimpse of each of their stories. They film, you know, 9, 10, 12 hours a day, and, you know, only such and such amount of time gets actually cut in through editing that we actually see on the show. So there might be things that we're thinking about that they did do, but we just don't see it on the show. So it's not for us armchair quarterbacks to discount the cast based on something we do or do not see. So I think he should have let the bear know that he was there. So we're moving forward. We're still on day 4. It's a little after noon, 10 people left, and we're back to Matt still. His voice just doesn't sound assertive. And I really believe that an assertive tone and noise and cracking branches and just being noisy, maybe singing or whatever you're doing, like Biko, he's running around singing everywhere. I think that kind of approach is actually very smart, because I've said this numerous times in previous episodes of Alone Commentary that when you get dropped into their ecosystem, you are a new element to their home, to animals. So in the beginning, at the launch, there's always the highest potential for animal interaction. And so I think to keep predators at bay, it's important to make noise. That will diminish hunting opportunities and things like that, but it's definitely going to keep you from getting ate alive. Then an annotation comes on the screen and it says 70% of grizzly bear attacks are mom bears protecting their cubs. So we're moving forward, day 4, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, approximately 10 people left. We're talking about Tim still, and he sees a grouse up in the tree. He throws a rock at the grouse, pretty close, but he misses. He's hungry. He decides that he's going to fish. And at this point, we're on day 4. He has already lost 6 pounds. That's a lot of weight for day 4. And again, it kind of goes back to what I said a second ago about the shelter. He put a lot of effort into building that shelter, and he did it in a sprint. He did not marathon that shelter. If you go back to, I think it was season 3 where Zach Fowler was on there, he stayed under a tarp for like almost a month in Patagonia. And I remember doing the commentary complaining about why doesn't Zach Fowler have a shelter yet? You know, and then he ends up winning the show. He went out there with the mindset, and I learned from that. He had the mindset of this is a marathon. And so we're seeing that in Tim. He's lost 6 pounds. And he decides that he's going to go fishing. And so he said that they will allow the cast members to bring a toothbrush. So he brought a silver-colored toothbrush. He cut a little piece of it off, had a hole and he made a lure. So he decided to go fishing with this silver lure. And the wind was crazy. He couldn't get a hand cast out there. He doesn't have a fish pole. He's just hand casting, and the wind was just ridiculous. It was like 28 degrees out there. And he says, I can't cast right now. And he said, and just the tone and stuff like that I could hear in his voice, I got the feeling that he was starting to already break emotionally, mentally, I thought. And he said, then he starts talking about, I've already had a heart attack 6 years ago, and this is a legitimate concern for him. And he decides to sleep and get some rest, which was a good call. So we're moving forward. We're on day 5, 6:33 in the morning, bright and early. 10 people left. We're talking about Clay. His shelter is basically a tarp, kind of an A-frame tarp design, and he says, and it's an open type shelter. There's airflow that can come through, convection, and that's a concern for him. So he decides that he wants to work on the shelter. And on day 2, he built a fishing rod and a reel, and he decides that he's going to go fishing. And he talks about missing his family. He says this is the longest that he'll be away from his family, and he knows that they're going to be fine. So apparently, this is another positive thing here. Apparently, Clay's family has reassured him previous to launch that they're going to be fine. So that means a lot to me. That they're basically telling him, go out there and kill it. We're going to be fine. So that's impressive. So he knows in his heart that his family is going to be fine, that they're going to be good to go. And what do you know? He catches this beautiful rainbow trout with a lure that he made out of I think it was like a bottle cap and a piece of paracord or something. I was just blown away at Clay already. He's just killing it already. So he catches a fish and he's happy. He's got a rainbow trout. Moving forward, 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's still day 5, 10 people left. We're talking about Rose. She finds these berries. And I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this correctly, but they're kickanik or something berries. Kinnick or something berries. I'm not familiar with those types of berries. They're also known, there's an annotation on the screen that says they're also known as bear berries. They grow on small evergreen shrubs. So Rose is eating these berries, and the berries are traditionally used as a treatment for urinary tract infections. And she decides that she's going to move her camp. It's very windy, and her new camp location is about 1/4 mile away. So and it's dense terrain. She's got to carry all that camera gear and all her stuff and everything. It's a task to make a move like that. So we're moving forward. I believe it's 8:47 at night. We're still on day 5. We still got 10 people left. We're still talking about Rose, and she says, I'm not feeling good. She's shaky. She's nauseous. And she said the same thing I was thinking, as something to the effect that she might have had too many berries to eat. And then there was an annotation that came on the screen. It said something to the effect that if you have berries, they have a lot of high fructose syrup or something in them or something. I forget what it was, because I was watching the show live, so I wasn't able to actually go back and see what that said. But it said something to the effect that if you have too many of those types of berries, it will affect you with vomiting and diarrhea and stuff like that. So she goes and she throws up. And then it forwards to 9 o'clock at night. Then we're on day 6, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning. She threw up a couple times during the night, 8 in the morning. She didn't sleep at all. And she's wondering at this point if she can do this. She's starting to wonder mentally. And it's day 6. So she's done a lot, It's taken a toll on her. And we're moving forward, 9:21 in the morning, 10 people left. We're back talking about Biko again. And he says, I'm starting to stink. I like the guy's character. He's funny. He's very funny. He shows the knife, and he calls it a knife. He says, it looks okay. And he says, it's the best I can do with the back of my axe and a multi-tool and a rock, which I got to give him credit, man. A for effort. I mean, he did a good job there. So he talks about his nose being pierced, and he's working on a little piece of bone for a nose bone in his nose thing, piercing. And then an annotation comes on the screen, I think, and it says that they're not allowed to bring any piercings or jewelry or anything like that on the show. And he's singing, and now we're moving forward. I'm not sure. I think we're still on day 6. It didn't show, or at least I didn't catch it, but it's in the morning. We're talking about Tim. He gets up and he is wanting to hunt grouse today. He said his heart's pounding and he doesn't feel right. And he said something's wrong. So, I mean, he's really having a hard time. He had a heart attack, like he said, 6 years ago, and the feelings and the symptoms and things that he's experiencing right now is scaring him. He's kind of thinking that, you know, I'm hoping I'm not having a heart attack out here. He knows that he kind of overdid it a little bit on that shelter. So he's having a hard time. He gets back to the shelter, his heart's pounding, and he says, I don't want to tap, but I don't want to die. He's kind of scared. He's afraid of having a heart attack. And there's an annotation that comes on the screen, and it says, when heart attack symptoms persist for more than 5 minutes, the chance of permanent damage increases. So he gets out the phone and he's kind of panicking, which is understandable. You're out there in an environment where there's not a doctor right there. I mean, I could understand that that would be a very overwhelming experience. In my opinion, I was hoping to see him try to calm himself down, because from my perspective, and I'm not out there, but from what I can see, it's my interpretation that he was working himself up. So he gets his phone, he calls, he taps, and I'm like, I'm hoping that he's okay. You know, ultimately, it's a show, and ultimately we have to trust their judgment. He knows his body better than we do. He's the one out there. I'm just going based on what I'm seeing on the screen, you know, and then the boat comes for him. He's very emotional. He's crying. I mean, he's just a ball of emotions. Very, very, very distraught right now. And I personally think that he made the right decision, because there's you know, it's not worth dying for. I mean, if you're having legitimate symptoms. But I really wish that I could have seen him, and maybe he did try to do this, but I wish that I could have seen him try to calm himself down. You know, try to relax. That might have gotten him through that moment. It may have just been anxiety. We don't know. As viewers, we really don't know. He made the right decision. He says, I want to see my family again. And I'm being honest with you folks, that would be very scary to be in the situation that he was in. A very tough situation. On Alone the Beast, there was a participant that had a similar action. You know, he had a heart attack, I think, out there. So try to stay calm, and I feel for him. And then 4 days later, he's having an interview with Nikki. I think she was on season 6, I think, of Alone. And he's doing good, and so my prayers were answered that he's okay. That it's such a blessing to see him healthy and happy again. You know, so he's fine, at least from what we can see. And he said that he wasn't mentally prepared. He said he was a little depressed. And when the chest pain came in, he said it was the same feeling that he had when he had his heart attack. It scared him. He said that he kind of wishes he would have not worked himself up a little bit and stuck around a little bit. And he says it's kind of unfortunate to tap when there's nothing wrong. But ultimately, he's extremely thankful for being out there, and again stands by his decision of doing the right thing, which I agree with him. He did the right thing. Anytime your body, you know, is broken or something, or you got to take care of your body. That's your life that we're talking about. And he kind of regretted leaving early, but he's happy with the decision that he made. So that's really it for season 8, episode 1. I liked the show, and the location is fantastic. We got to see a few of the cast members. I'm looking here at the list of cast members. Let me see, who did we not see? We didn't see much of Coulter or Jordan. We didn't see Michelle Finn. Did we see Clay? I'm not sure if we saw Clay or Teresa. We saw Tim, Rose, Nate, Biko. So very cool. So I hope you enjoyed this video, folks. Please leave comments down below. Like this video. Share this video, please. And if you like the type of content that you see on my channel, please don't hesitate hitting that subscribe button, ringing that notification bell. I will be posting all of this Alone Season 8 commentary to my brand new playlist, Alone Season 8. So if you guys are catching one of these episodes and you want to, maybe you caught it by chance and you want to go see the rest of my thoughts on this show, there will be a playlist on my channel where you could do that. So folks, again, with all that being said, thank you so much. I hope you guys have a wonderful night. I love you all. We'll see you next time. This show is awesome. Bye for now.